Asterisk, are we watching a war, or are we watching a story, carefully crafted, edited, and sold to us, frame by frame, like a blockbuster with no hero? Asterisk, because what we're witnessing between Iran and Israel isn't just an armed conflict, it's a war of narratives. A brutal, high-stakes battle over who gets to tell the story, and who gets to be believed. You see, in today's world, truth doesn't just walk into a room and command attention. It has to shout, it has to fight through noise, through manipulation, through propaganda, and far too often it gets silenced not by bullets, but by apathy. The media picks a side, politicians pick a side, and the public is left choosing between headlines, half-truths, and hysterical hashtags. But let me make this clear. When bombs are falling and children are dying, this is not the time to be confused. This is the time to wake up, because while we're debating the right side of history, innocent people are being erased from it. This conflict has become a canvas for agendas. On one side, Israel frames its narrative as survival, defending its people from threats that are both real and imagined. On the other, Iran amplifies its story through resistance fighting imperialism, occupation, and betrayal. And you know what? Both sides have blood on their hands. Both sides have trauma in their hearts. But what neither side owns, what no government, no regime, no military alliance can truly claim, is the truth. And here's the terrifying part. When truth becomes a casualty, so does humanity. Now, you might be thinking, well, Piers, it's complicated. And yes, it is. But complexity is not an excuse for cowardice. It's not a reason to stay silent. When truth becomes murky, our responsibility is to dig deeper, not to look away, to question louder, not to retreat. And if we can't find clean answers, we must at least ask clean questions. Let's be honest about something else. This isn't just about Iran and Israel. This is about about the kind of world we're building when we allow the most powerful to speak the loudest, and the most vulnerable to be drowned in the rubble of strategic interests. Every time a hospital is hit, every time a school becomes a graveyard, someone is sitting in a press room deciding how that story should be told. Is it called self-defense or aggression, precision strike or civilian massacre? The words change, the facts don't. Children still die, mothers still scream, and the world still turns the volume down. Let me tell you what matters. What matters is who owns the story because whoever does owns the moral high ground, and once they've got that, they've got everything. They get to justify missiles, they get to normalize blockades, they get to erase lives in the name of defense, and silence dissent in the name of patriotism. But I refuse to sit here and pretend we don't see through the script. We are living in an age where truth is being auctioned off to the highest bidder. And unless you're willing to fight for it, you're just another pawn in someone else's game. So don't tell me this is just war. This is theater, tragedy dressed as strategy, a spectacle fueled by narratives, not principles. And here's the real question. What role are you playing? Because if you're silent, you're not neutral, you're obedient. If you're indifferent, you're not informed, you're sedated. And if you're still waiting for someone else to speak up, then understand this. You are the silence that protects the lie. This isn't just about which side has the bigger army. It's about who has the courage to call out the truth. That's the only side I want to be on. Because if we don't fight for the truth, who will? And if not now, when? Let me ask you this, when did we become so numb to suffering? When did dead children become statistics, not stories? When did families buried in rubble become background noise to another trending headline? Because what we're witnessing in this Iran-Israel conflict isn't just geopolitics. It's a relentless, gut-wrenching tragedy of innocence being sacrificed at the altar of power. And the most damning part, The world watches, shrugs, and moves on. This isn't just war. This is ***, the death of empathy ***. Behind every explosion, there's a child who didn't ask to be born into a battlefield. Behind every retaliatory strike, there's a mother cradling the lifeless body of her son. And behind every so-called strategic target, there's a father who will never again hear his daughter's voice. That is what's really happening. That's the truth you won't find on your evening news, and it's the reality most world leaders won't dare utter. Because acknowledging it would mean confronting the horrifying fact that we, as a global society, have normalized the slaughter of the innocent, as long as it fits neatly into our political narratives. Don't let the flags fool you. Don't let the politicians with their polished sound bites distract you. This is not a chessboard, it's a graveyard, and every so-called calculated strike is a gamble with human lives that should never have been wagered in the first place. Let me be blunt, neither Iran nor Israel holds a monopoly on grief. There are children in Gaza terrified to sleep at night. There are children in Tel Aviv flinching at the sound of sirens. Fear doesn't wear a flag. Grief doesn't chant a slogan. Pain doesn't check a passport. This isn't about sides anymore. It's about souls. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. It should, because far too many of us have become comfortably detached from the very real, very raw suffering of people who did nothing wrong except being born in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I'm tired of the excuses. It's complicated. It's always been like this. It's not our problem, really. Tell that to the child trapped under concrete. Tell that to the mother digging with her bare hands. Tell that to the doctors working without electricity, without supplies, desperately trying to save a life while drones circle overhead. We cannot continue to reduce human beings to pawns in a geopolitical play. That's not just immoral, it's inhumane. And let me tell you something else. ***, history doesn't forget cowards. ***, one day our children will ask what we did when the innocent were screaming. What will we say? That we tweeted? That we watched the footage, shook our heads and turned the channel? No, that's not good enough, not anymore. You want to make a difference. Start by seeing the people behind the politics. The grieving father, the orphan child, the young girl who no longer plays outside because she's too busy memorizing where to hide when the air raid sirens go off. These are not abstract consequences, these are lives and they matter. If we can't feel for them, then we've lost something far more dangerous than any war can take. * our humanity. * so here's your moment. Look past the flags, look past the politics, see the people. Because when history is written and the dust finally settles, the names we remember won't be those of politicians or generals. It will be the innocent, the ones who never got the chance to grow up, to dream, to live. And if that doesn't stir something deep in your chest, then ask yourself what exactly you've become. Let me ask you a question most leaders don't want to hear. ***, what good is power if it forgets the people it's meant to protect? ***, what good is strength if it's only ever used to destroy, to dominate, to instill fear rather than justice? Because the truth is, what we're witnessing right now isn't just the use of power, it's the abuse of it. And that abuse is happening on all sides. You see, there's something profoundly dangerous about power when it's stripped of conscience, when it becomes a blunt instrument rather than a guiding force, when military strategy replaces morality and dominance takes precedence over decency. And make no mistake, when you detach power from humanity, it doesn't matter what side you're on. You lose your soul either way. Let's be honest here, governments are making decisions from behind fortified walls, air-conditioned rooms, and security clearances, while innocent people are left to face the consequences of those choices without warning and without mercy. That's not leadership. That's cowardice masked as control. Israel claims defense, Iran claims resistance, but somewhere between those justifications lies a forgotten truth that neither of these narratives absolves you from humanity. You don't get to carpet, bomb ethics, You don't get to silence accountability with patriotism, and you certainly don't get to wipe away responsibility with the phrase collateral damage. There is nothing collateral about a father identifying his child in pieces. There is nothing strategic about reducing a neighborhood to dust. And if your policies require the erasure of innocence to succeed, then you've already failed morally, irrevocably, and publicly. We must stop pretending that strength is measured by how much destruction one can inflict. The world doesn't need more tyrants in ties. It needs men and women in power who understand that restraint can be stronger than retaliation, that compassion can be more effective than conquest, that peace is not weakness, it's the ultimate test of strength. And here's what sickens me. These leaders on both sides will eventually step away. Their careers will end, their terms will expire. They'll retire in luxury, write memoirs, give speeches. But the people they failed, the civilians buried, the children traumatized, the communities wiped out, they don't get a retirement. They don't get a second chance. They live with the scars. If they're lucky enough to live at all. Power, real power, is not about how many missiles you launch. It's about whether you can look into the eyes of a grieving mother and say, "We did everything we could to prevent this." And right now, I don't think a single leader in this conflict can say that without choking on their own hypocrisy. This conflict is not simply about borders or religion or history. It's about the sheer inability of those in charge to choose the harder path, the path of mercy, of dialogue, of restraint. And why? Because it's easier to drop bombs than to build bridges. Easier to hold grudges than to show grace. Easier to crush opposition than to understand it. But history is watching, and it doesn't care about your press statements or your PR campaigns. It remembers those who had power and how they chose to use it. It remembers the tyrants, yes, but it also remembers the cowards who looked away. So if you hold power right now, military, political, cultural, ask yourself this. Are you leading with courage, or are you hiding behind it? Are you wielding strength with wisdom, or simply unleashing chaos because you can? Because in the end, power without conscience doesn't make you feared. It makes you forgotten. And that, I promise you, is the legacy no one wants. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Have we lost our ability to tell the difference between justice and vengeance? Because when I look at the headlines, when I listen to world leaders talk about response and retaliation, I don't hear the language of progress, I hear the language of revenge. Dressed up in strategy, cloaked in policy, but still reeking of pain being recycled instead of resolved. And that should disturb every single one of us. This isn't justice we're seeing unfold between Iran and Israel. This is a vendetta, a generational, tit-for-tat campaign of retribution where the score is never settled, only passed on. Where every life lost becomes fuel for another strike. Where grief is weaponized and diplomacy is pushed aside for dominance. Justice is not about evening the score. Justice is about stopping the scorekeeping altogether. It's about truth. It's about dignity. It's about ensuring that innocent people don't have to live their lives ducking missiles and burying their children. But that ideal true justice has been buried under rubble and rhetoric for far too long. This cycle of revenge is not strength. It's weakness disguised as pride, and it's killing us, quite literally. Every time one side acts in retaliation, the other escalates. And in the middle, ordinary people, families, farmers, students, human beings who want nothing more than to live without fear. Let's not forget the cost of this madness. A child killed in an airstrike doesn't care who fired the rocket. A hospital reduced to ashes doesn't know whose drone was in the sky. These victims don't benefit from political debates. They don't get justice, they get silence, abandonment, and hashtags. And yet, the leaders on both sides keep selling the same lie. We had no choice, really. No choice or no courage to choose differently. Because let me tell you what real courage looks like. Real courage is restraint. Real courage is saying, we've had enough bloodshed and we refuse to let our pain justify more. That's what separates leadership from ego. That's what turns moments of conflict into opportunities for change. But sadly, ego is winning this war. Pride is fueling the destruction, and instead of saying, never again, we've built a world where it's always just one more strike, one more warning, one more act of revenge. We have to stop pretending that this is normal. It's not. This is not how civilized nations behave. This is not how peace is achieved. And this certainly isn't how justice is served. There comes a moment when a society must decide, do we want peace or do we want punishment? Because you cannot have both. Punishment keeps the cycle alive. Peace ends it. So I ask, where are the voices brave enough to rise above revenge? Where are the leaders who understand that forgiveness is not weakness, it's the highest form of strength? Where are the people? Because it must start with the people who will demand better. We don't have to accept this world where vengeance is a policy and destruction is disguised as honor. We can do better. We must do better. Because if we don't, then this war and every war that follows will not just be about territory or religion or politics. It will be about our complete failure to evolve beyond the instincts of hate. And if that's our legacy, if the history books look back and see only blood for blood, eye for eye, then we'll deserve every word of condemnation they write. Let me ask the question nobody wants to answer, asterisk, how many more must die before we stop pretending this is about security and admit that it's about control? Asterisk, control of land, control of narratives, control of fear, because the war between Iran and Israel is no longer about defense. It's about domination, and the price of that obsession is being paid in blood by people who never chose this fight to begin with. Control is seductive. It makes governments believe that if they just exert a little more pressure, drop one more bomb, silence one more voice, they can win. But what exactly are they winning? A pile of rubble where a city once stood, a quiet border where families used to live. A brief moment of silence between explosions, because let me tell you something, you can conquer territory, but you cannot conquer hearts with fear. You can erase names from registries, but you cannot erase the pain from memory. And eventually, those memories become resistance not just in Iran or Israel, but everywhere injustice is left to fester under the boots of power. This isn't a regional issue anymore, this is global. This is a mirror being held up to all of us, every citizen, every government, every so-called free society. And the reflection isn't flattering. We say we care about human rights. We say we defend liberty. We say, never again. But when the bombs fall, we close our eyes. When the screams echo from beneath the rubble, we turn up the volume on our distractions. When the facts become too uncomfortable, we label them propaganda. Why? Because it's easier to feel in control when the truth is filtered, when the messiness of morality is replaced with the simplicity of loyalty. When our side is always right and theirs always wrong, that's not justice, that's delusion, and it's a dangerous one. Control has become the mask that hides cowardice, cowardice to admit mistakes, cowardice to apologize, cowardice to extend a hand instead of a weapon, and no amount of military might can make up for moral bankruptcy. The leaders pulling these strings, they believe they're shaping the future, but they've forgotten something vital. A future built on domination isn't a future, it's a countdown to collapse. Because the people always remember. The children who grew up hearing drones instead of bedtime stories, they remember. The mothers who carried their dead sons through the streets, they remember. The doctors who stitched wounds in candlelight while the bombs kept falling, they all remember. And one day they will speak, they will lead, they will write the next chapter of this history, and when they do, what will they say about us? That we stayed silent, that we defended the powerful while condemning the powerless, that we watched a fire consume a region and did nothing but argue over who lit the match. We've got to stop pretending that silence is stability, that control equals peace, that war is just another policy tool. Because behind every so-called victory lies a grave, behind every ceasefire delayed lies a chance for healing stolen. Control is a myth. It may give you the illusion of order, but it cannot give you peace. It cannot bring back the dead. And it cannot undo the trauma seared into the souls of those forced to live beneath its boot. So here's the truth that no one wants to admit *. We are complicit in every moment we choose comfort over courage, neutrality over truth, control over compassion, *. And if we don't change that, then this isn't just war, it's the slow, methodical murder of our humanity. Let me say something that might make some people uncomfortable. * Silence is not neutral. It never was. * In a world where atrocities are broadcast live, and injustices unfold in real time, silence has become a convenient escape route for the comfortable and the indifferent. But here's the raw, unfiltered truth. **** Silence is a choice. ***, and in the face of suffering, that choice is cowardice dressed as diplomacy. We love to pretend neutrality is noble, don't we? That standing back somehow makes us wise, objective, balanced. But tell me this, when hospitals are bombed, when aid is blocked, when civilians are massacred, what's noble about standing back? What's dignified about doing nothing while men in suits debate ceasefires over wine and steak? You can't hide behind both sides when both sides are bleeding and you're holding the bandages. You can't excuse your inaction by calling it complexity. Complexity doesn't absolve conscience, it tests it. And right now, the world is failing that test. Look around you, influential leaders dodging tough questions. Public figures terrified to speak plainly. Newsrooms walking on eggshells, carefully choosing which corpse deserves a headline and which doesn't. That isn't journalism, that's performance, that isn't leadership, that's PR, and I'm tired of it. When did we become so afraid to speak truth to power? When did we decide that offending sensibilities mattered more than defending the innocent? If a missile wipes out a refugee camp, and you're more concerned about how your statement might affect your reputation than the lives lost *, you are part of the problem. And yes, I understand fear. I understand hesitation, but I also understand that silence is never truly silent. It's deafening to those crying for help and hearing nothing back. It echoes